You know, ladies and gentlemen, every Hall of Fame is controversial because of the people that are in it and not in it. In the case of this player, he should be in the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame, but because maybe the media didn't like him as much as the fans of the Reds, Giants, and Mets loved him, maybe that's not why he's in. So today we're going to give you the raw information why I think this is the biggest disgrace in Major League Baseball Hall of Fame history, besides a few other key players like Timmy Raines, who were late getting into the Hall after a number of years, Whitaker, Trammell, all the what they call the veterans that were late. Why isn't George Foster in the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame? Well, what else did he have to do? Probably the most feared hitter of the mid to late 1970s with the Reds, had a season in 1977 which we'll probably never see again. No steroid era with this guy. But he went from obscurity with the San Francisco Giants, traded to the Reds, struggled as a hitter, and all of a sudden he bloomed as a home run specialist, as an RBI specialist, and for a period from the mid 1970s to the early 1980s, no player was more feared because of his overall talent. Now, George Arthur Foster, born December 1st, 48, played in the major leagues from 69 through 86, mostly as an outfielder. He was a big part of the Big Red Machine, or I call it the second wave. Started off sharing duties with Cesar Geronimo, and eventually helped the team to 4 National League pennants and 2 World Series titles. Now, he also played with the Mets, where 86 he did get a 3/4 share on their World Series title win, so technically 3. And he also played with the White Sox before he felt he was being blackballed by Major League Baseball in 87 and never played again. Now, 5-time All-Star, Foster led the National League in home runs in 77 and 78 and RBIs in 76, 77, and 78. He was the NL's most valuable player in 77 and a Silver Slugger Award winner in 81. In 2003, Foster was inducted into the Cincinnati Reds Hall of Fame and is also part of the Alabama Hall of Fame. Now, born in Tuscaloosa, mostly a left fielder, batted right and threw right. Again, a 5-time All-Star in the National League from 76 to 79 and 81, World Series champion 75, 76, and 86, NL MVP in 77, Silver Slugger in 81, 2-time NL home run leader 77 to 78, 76 to 78 NL RBI leader, and then again the Cincinnati Reds Hall of Fame. Now, early career. He attended Lusinger High School in Lawndale, California. After a single year at El Camino College, he was drafted by the Giants in the 3rd round of the '68 draft. After 2 seasons in their farm system, he debuted with the Giants as a 20-year-old in September '69. He went for 2 for 5 that year with 1 run batted in as a pinch hitter and a late inning replacement. That year, on September 22nd, Willie Mays pinch hit for Foster and hit his career home run number 600. Now, Foster returned to the Giants in September the following year, hitting his first career home run off the Padres' Pat Dobson. He finally made it to an opening day roster in 71 as a 4th outfielder behind Mays, Bobby Bonds, and Ken Henderson, but was traded to the Reds shortly after the season started. Forget this, shortstop Frank Duffy and pitcher Vern Geisart. Household names in their own households, but I've never heard of them before or since, and probably one of the worst trades in Major League Baseball history, because Foster was just, he was a rose about to bloom. He was immediately inserted to the starting lineup for the Reds in center field as starting center fielder Bobby Tolan, and was lost for the season with a torn Achilles tendon. He returned to a backup role in 1972, platooning in right field with Geronimo, and managed just a .200 batting average with 2 homers and 12 RBIs. Now, that year, of course, he was most well known for scoring the winning run against Pittsburgh in the National League Champion Series. Now, the nucleus of the Big Red Machine, the first phase, began coming together that season, however, and the Reds returned to postseason playoffs after a disappointing 4th place finish in 1971. Now, Foster played in the 72 National League Championship Series against the Pirates only as a pinch hitter for Tony Perez in Game 5, and of course he scored that winning run on a wild pitch from Bob Moose. Now, Foster appeared in games 1 and 5 of the World Series against Athletics, but did not log an at-bat. Now, he spent the 1973 season with Reds AAA affiliate, the Indianapolis Indians, and made a September return to the majors when the minor league season ended. He was not part of the Reds postseason roster, and Tolan, who was very talented, but he had suffered through a poor 73 season in which he batted just .206, and was traded that winter to the Padres for pitcher Clay Kirby. Foster, Merv Ruttenman, and rookie Ken Griffey Sr. all took turns filling the hole the trade created in right field in 74, with Foster batting .264 with 7 home runs and 64 RBIs. Now, with Foster, he was starting to get his swing together. Now, unlike instant karma, instant talent players like Vladimir Guerrero, you knew he was going to do well from the starts, but with Foster, it took a while for his talent to kick in. Now, early in the 75 season, Reds manager Sparky Anderson shifted perennial All-Star Pete Rose III and used a platoon of Foster and Dan Dreesen in left. Foster soon won the everyday job with a .300 batting average, 23 homers and 78 RBIs. With Foster now in left, the final piece of the first wave of the Big Red Machine was in place. The Reds won 108 games that year, and probably, ladies and gentlemen, might have been the best overall team of the modern era. Now, the idea of the big red machine, they were always balanced. Now, I'll give an example. What I call the first wave of the big red machine. You had Johnny Bench, you had Tony Perez at first. You had Joe Morgan at second, Concepcion at short, Rose at third, and a platoon of Foster, Griffey, Geronimo, and Dreesen, other key players for the outfield. So they were that good. Now, that 1975 team again. They tied the 1970 World Series champion Orioles for the most regular season wins in the decade. They dominate the Padres in the 1975 title series, outscoring the opponents 9-7 to sweep the series in 3 games. For his part, Foster batted .364 and scored 3 times. Now, the Red Sox, a very good team that year, proved a far tougher opponent in the World Series, as the Reds needed 7 games to win their first World Series title since 1940. Foster went 2 for 6 and drove in 2 runs in the classic Game 6 of the World Series at Fenway Park. His most memorable moment was on the field. The game was tied, and with the bases loaded, no outs in the 9th, reigning MVP and Rookie of the Year Fred Lynn lifted the ball down the left field line. Foster made the catch near the stands for the first out of the inning, but Denny Doyle tagged up on the play and was out at home on a strong throw from Foster. Rico Petrocelli then grounded out to Rose at third for the final out and sent the game to extra innings. Now, Anderson moved Foster into cleanup role in the batting order, doing a 17-game hitting streak in June 76, when Foster's batting average peaked at .345. With 343. With 17 home runs and 71 RBIs at the All-Star break, he was elected to start his first All-Star game. He turned in the MVP of performance with a 2-run home run and a third RBI to pace his team to a 7-4-1 victory over the American League. He ended the season batting .306 with 29 homers and 121 RBIs to finish second behind teammate Joe Morgan in National League MVP balloting. Rose and Griffey also finished within the top 10. Now, the Reds won the National League West by 10 games over the LA Dodgers, and they became the only team to go undefeated in postseason history since the establishment of the divisional era in '69, when he swept the Phillies in 3 and the Yankees in 4 to win the World Series. For his part, Foster had a rough series in the NLCS, batting just .167, but hit key home runs in games 1 and 3. His average jumped to .429 in the World Series while driving in 4. Now, 1977, a very strange year for Foster and the Reds, and we'll get into this in a second. He turned in one of the all-time great seasons of '77 on his way to winning the NL's MVP. On July 14, Foster clubbed 3 home runs against the Braves. A home run the following day against the Astros Gene Pence brought his season to mark to 29 heading to the All-Star break. He started his second consecutive All-Star game and led the NL charge with a first-inning double to drive in Dave Parker with the first run in the game. On September 23rd, in the ninth inning of the Reds' 5-1 victory over the Braves, Foster hit his 50th home run of the season off Buzz Capra, making him the first player since Willie Mays in 1965 to hit 50 in the season. The 50 home run mark would not be reached again until Cecil Fielder hit 51 in 1990. Foster was just the 10th player in Major League history to reach the mark and the first ever Red. Now, his 149 RBIs also led the majors. And let me tell you something, to see Mr. Foster do so well was just tremendous that year. He was a pleasure to see. He finished fourth in NL batting, missed a triple crown by .18 behind Dave Parker, and he also led the NL in slugging percentage at .631, runs scored 124, and total bases 388. Now, the Reds did not win the division that year, and for a strange reason, the Dodgers were a much better team that year, but they lost to the Yankees in the World Series. Now, he took over where he left off in '78 with 18 homers and 63 RBIs in the first half of the season to earn his third consecutive All-Star start. For the year, he batted .281. He paced the NL with both home runs and RBIs with 40 and 120 respectively. He was voted on his fourth consecutive All-Star team in '79, but needed to be pulled in the second inning after pulling his thigh. The Reds lost Foster because of this for a month and had been decimated by injuries, but managed to stay in the NL West race during Foster's absence. Shortly after his return, the Reds went on an 8-game winning streak that saw them jump into first place by 1.5 games over the Astros. The Reds then held off the Astros to win their first division crown since '76, but were swept by the Dave Parker Pirates in the '79 NLCS. Foster's highlight was a game-tying home run in Game 1 of that series. Now, following '79, Joe Morgan headed to the Astros via free agency with Tony Perez and Pete Rose already gone. Perez to Montreal, Rose to the Phillies. The big red machine, the second phase, was beginning to come apart, and the Reds slumped to a third-place finish in 1980. Foster led the club with 25 homers and 93 RBIs. A rejuvenated Cincinnati Reds team won a major league record best 66 games in a strike-shortened season of '81, but managed to miss the playoffs as a result of the split season format used that year. Foster returned to form, finishing second to Mike Schmidt in the NL's RBI race. At this point in his career, when it looked as he would one day rank among the game's all-time greats, Lawrence Ritter and Donald Honig included him in their book, The 100 Greatest Baseball Players of All Time. Now, in my personal opinion, what happened with Foster, when he started to think contract more than playing time, I think that's when the media turned against him, and that's why he's not in the Hall of Fame. With 1 year remaining on his contract, Foster was seeking a new 5-year deal with the Reds. Unwilling to meet his contract demands, the Reds traded him to New York Mets for Greg Harris, Jim Kern, and Alex Trevino on February 10, '82, after which Foster agreed with the club on a 5-year, $10 million contract. Now, he hit very well in the Riverfront, but for some reason in Shea wasn't the same player. Whereas the Reds were at or near the top of the division's entire life in Cincinnati, the Mets were consistent cellar dwellers in the NL East when Foster joined his new club. The franchise was hoping for a turnaround with Foster in tow, and he also got Ellis Valentine, but it was not to be, as all of Foster's power numbers declined. He hit 13 home runs while driving 70 in his first season in New York City, both the lowest numbers of his career. Now, the idea again, I don't think the park was really something that he ever expected to be hitting in. He always had trouble hitting in Shea. Now, although the Mets were starting to build, Foster was sort of in the background because of this. They eventually acquired Keith Hernandez and brought up rookie prospect Darryl Strawberry during the '83 season. Giving more protection to the lineup, it was better for him, and Foster rebounded with a team-best 28 home runs and 90 RBIs. When the Mets became a contending team again in '84, Foster batted .269 with 24 home runs and 86 RBIs. Just like Donaldson, Bautista, and then Carcio in Toronto just a few years ago. You had Foster, Strawberry, and Hernandez because they balanced off each other. Now, the '85 season came down to the wire between the Mets and the Cardinals on September 10th, with the two teams held tied atop the NL East. An incident between Foster and Cardinal pitcher Danny Kosk caused both benches to clear. But the race remained tight, but the Cardinals pulled off the 3-game lead as the Mets headed to Busch for a 3-game set on October 1st. But unfortunately, the Cardinals got the best of the Mets and eventually won the division. Now, Foster in the second game, the series, he scored the second run of the game on a fielder's choice by Gooden. In the 7th, he drove the first pitch from Joaquin Arnhar to deep centered field to give the Mets a 4-1 lead. Foster went 3 for 4 to lead the Mets a 5-2 victory and pulled to win a 1-game division lead. But the Mets, however, lost the next day in the last game of the series, and the Cardinals went on to win the division. Now, by the time 1986 rolled around, Foster was 37 in the final year of his contract when the season began. Although he had been respectable for several years, he had not fully lived up to the expectations that were set for him by the Mets, and his age was starting to become a factor as well. He put up respectable power numbers, 13 homers and 37 RBIs, but had a .237 average and lost considerable range in left field. Meanwhile, Mets manager Davey Johnson was looking for an everyday position for a utility man and key player Kevin Mitchell. When the Mets headed to Cincinnati for a 3-game series on July 21st, Foster sat out the series, making just one pitch hit appearance in the second game of the set. Now, there was a bench-clearing brawl between Eric Davis and third baseman Ray Knight. Came to punches after a slide in third place. Both benches emptied with exception of Foster. Foster said he had stayed out of the ruckus because it set a bad example for children. After a series in Cincinnati, Johnson officially announced Mitchell as an everyday left fielder. So Johnson was wanting Foster to be a team player, and Foster was going his own way. Foster had complained at the time that his demotion was racially motivated, with LA Times writer Mike Downey criticizing him for making that statement, considering that Mitchell, who replaced Foster, was black. He made just 14 plate appearances after that point, walking 1, getting 1 single, and striking out 6 times. On August 7th, the Mets released Foster, and they replaced him on the Major League roster with the fan favorite Lee Mazzilli. Now, later that month, he was claimed off waivers by the White Sox and hit the ground running with his new club. In his first game, he went 2 for 4 with a homer. From there, his game declined, and Foster was released on September 7th after 15 games with his new club. When the Mets won the World Series in '86, they awarded Foster a World Series ring and a 3/4 share as a team member. He also attempted to sign with a new club in '87, and rumor has it the Blue Jays or Expos were in the mix, but it was unsuccessful. Now, in his career, 1,977 games, .274 average, 1,925 hits, 986 runs, 307 doubles, 47 triples, 348 home runs, 1,239 runs batted in, 666 walks, 338 on-base percentage, and 480 slugging. 984 fielding percentage at all 3 outfield positions, and in 23 postseason games, which included 3 appearances in the World Series, 4 appearances in the LLCS, he had hit .289, 11 runs, 2 doubles, 3 homers, 12 runs batted in, and 8 walks. Now, he played 2 seasons in the Senior Professional Baseball League, mostly for the St. Lucie Legends. He also played with the St. Petersburg Pelicans before the league folded. Now, he's also worked as a scout, including as an advisor for the Oryx Buffaloes of the Nippon Professional Baseball League. Now, on the personal life, he has 2 daughters with his beautiful wife, and been a role model for many people in his community. Now, Foster began a baseball online radio show, the George Foster Diamond Report, in which he speaks about how the development and strength of an athlete can build a strong foundation. He also spends time instructing youth in baseball techniques and also works as a motivational speaker. He has operated a non-profit organization that supports children of military families who live in inner-city neighborhoods. He He also sponsors baseball boot camps for children, as well as Cincinnati Select Baseball squads that are under Foster's force. Now, Foster was on the National Baseball Hall of Fame ballot for 4 years, having his highest total, this was a disgrace, ladies and gentlemen, of 6.9% in 1993, before being dropped off after garnering 4.1% of the vote in 95. He has been inducted to the Cincinnati Reds Hall of Fame, and he was also a celebrity participant in the 2010 Cincinnati Reds Friday Market Opening Day Parade, and he frequently returns to Cincinnati for the annual Reds Fest and other reunion events. Again, inducted in the Alabama Sports Hall of Fame in 2002. Now, I've seen Mr. Foster play. The idea is, with the duties he had in the field and at the plate, what else do you need for a Hall of Fame? Again, you had to stand out to be a Cincinnati Red. 8 or 9 of the top 60 baseball players of the 1970s were with the Reds in that period. Foster stood out because he was a killer. He would find a situation. He was a money player, ladies and gentlemen. I saw him hit a lot of key home runs. But the strangest part, again, the 1977 season, where he had his best year, he didn't make the playoffs. In 75 and 76, not say his talent was wasted, but he was coming on and coming on. But for the Giants to give up on him, I really don't understand that at all. But is Davy Johnson a great baseball mind, ladies and gentlemen? Of course not. And he was playing mind games with George Foster, and Foster basically said, fuck you, I've won 2 World Series, I know what it takes to win. And he stuck to his personality. Like, when that brawl occurred, there was a lot of media reports about that. He didn't want to fight with anybody because he saw that was a bad example of kids. I remember in published reports, he said, what is that going to give me going out and beating up on some of my former teammates? He said, that's not a good idea. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you're a baseball fan and never heard of George Foster before today, look him up. There's a lot of video. But if you're a Cincinnati Reds fan, you're agreeing with me. Why isn't George Foster in the Hall of Fame? The people that didn't vote him for the Hall of Fame should be kicked off the committee, because what else does a person have to do? Who is a top 20 player of the 1970s? It's George Foster. So why would you not put a top 20 player from the 1970s? He was just as good as George Brett, just as good as Fred Lynn, just as good as Jim Rice. All these great up-and-coming stars. George Foster was one of the straws that stirred the drink in Cincinnati. Again, did the media turn against him? Was it because Davy Johnson, was more loved by the media in New York? I think it's a connection between the New York media supporting Davy Johnson and not taking George Foster seriously. There's some media said, well, he had Rose and Bench and all these people. He didn't really need him. Of course Cincinnati needed him, because Bench, when he was having a bad game, and Rose was having a bad game, and Perez and Foster, that was the key element. Everything else would match up, and Perez and Foster was better than that number 5 and number 6 or number 7 hitter on the other side. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's our latest in our Major League Baseball podcast. If you like what we're doing here, give us a like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget, Vladimir Guerrero, when you look at him, there's so much of not the same body type and not the same position, but that killer instinct and that mental acumen that George Foster had, very smart guy, is in Vladimir Guerrero. And all I can say, I've seen George Foster, and the first time I saw Vladimir Guerrero play, he's going to put up Foster numbers, and look at last year. Very close to it. So, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for listening, and as we like to say in the baseball terminology, let's play 2. Have a good day. Bye.